Good evening, everyone. I am Tahis Adele, and I am a widow. Do y'all think that's a good introduction? Well, for those of you that do not know me, I've been a widow for 3 years and 4 months now, and it is 4 more days to what would be my husband's 48th birthday. And I have decided to have this conversation about widowhood. I think it's necessary. I think it's important. And I believe with all my heart that it will help those of you that are walking the same path. And so we've had several videos before this, and at the end of the last one, I was talking about this idea of how do you sit with someone who is grieving the loss of their spouse. So let me just say to you that in those first months after Dante transitioned, it was hard for me to hear other people talk about him. It was hard. And so I kept to myself a lot. I remember, I believe Dante's phone was still on, his cell phone. And this woman that he had friended at the dialysis center that he was going to, she called, and thankfully, well, I wasn't answering the phone anyway, but she called and she left a message, and I listened to this message, and she was just sharing her grief about missing Dante's light, missing his light. And I was very glad that it was a message, because I would not have been able to have any kind of conversation with her at that point. And so this is really a very sensitive subject, because one of the reasons that I don't like death is I don't know how to respond to someone who has lost someone. What do you say when someone loses someone that they love and care about? What do you say? And so for me, just in my everyday life, when I don't know what to do, I want to stay away from it. And so death has been in that category. Okay? But if you're someone that I love and I care about and you're hurting, I want to be there. And so my best way of doing that has always been just to show up and to do whatever I could do to help. Not ever saying my condolences, not ever asking, how are you? For me, I'm just talking about me right now. I don't like those questions, because I want to retaliate back. Well, how do you think I am? I mean, I'm just being honest. Now, if you ask me that question, I will tell you that I am doing very well. But then, don't ask me that. I don't, how am I doing? How do you think I'm doing? How do you think? And so I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just telling you how I felt. There may have been some people that, they asked that question of you and you were able to respond, right? And so that's totally okay. You respond how you need to. But for me, I never liked the question, so I never asked the question. I just showed up. And so this is a sensitive subject because a lot of times people will say and do things to make themselves feel better, not you, in an attempt to show that they care. I remember someone sent me a text, and the text had to do with the holidays, and it was sort of like, you know, I know you're missing your sweet husband, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, something to that effect. And I kind of told her she did not have to remind me that my husband was no longer here, because I live with it every single day, every single moment of the day, every single moment of the day. So in your attempt to, I don't know, help me to remember, made me a little angry, to be honest with you. And so this is probably a tough conversation for me, because we use things like my condolences. We use things like, how are you? And I don't necessarily think that, for me, they just weren't appropriate. So here's what I would like you to do. When you watch this video, whatever, time in the future that will be for you, I would really like to know, you as a widow, you as a widower, can you share what would have been the best ways that people could have been there for you? Or the things that they could have said, or the things that you wish they had not said, right? There are some things I wish that had not been said. Yeah, and I would like to have a conversation about that even more, because it's really important. If I now, right, 3 and almost a half years later, as a widow, still facing people who lose loved ones and who lose spouses, how do I treat them? What do I say? Some people, and some people, you see me pointing to myself, because I didn't know what to say, depending on who the person was, I would stay away. And I know for myself that anybody who stayed away from me during my time, I did not hold it against them. Did not hold it against them. Because it is a very sensitive time in a person's life. And how do you deal with it, right? And if you don't know what to say, and my mother taught me this, right? And I think her mother taught her this, but if you don't know what to say, the best thing is to say nothing at all. I am a firm believer of that. You can be in a person's presence and you don't have to say anything. Just the gift of your presence, just being there, just, coming by to say hi, to spend some time. Those are some of the things for me that were very, very helpful. And they happened without me having to ask for it. Wouldn't that be nice? No, seriously, wouldn't that be nice if when something happened, everybody knew how to respond appropriately to you specifically? It's not going to happen all the time. But I do believe that those that are close to you, or that know you enough, in your time of need will do exactly what you need them to do without you having to say anything. Please tell me if I'm different, because I can tell you that there was not one person who actually really knew me. I'm not talking about the text I got. I'm talking about people that knew me. There was not one person who knew me that didn't respond appropriately without me having to say, hey, without me having to say something about it. People came over and just sat with me, spent time with me. No, we didn't sit around and talk about Dante. Why would I want to talk about him? He's not here. And this is just in my first couple of months. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yes, I had a friend come in and watch Hamilton with me. I watched Hamilton, the musical on Disney, like 20 times in the month of July. Like at least 20 times. At least. Because my husband and I had listened to the soundtrack before we had ever seen the play. And so I was excited. We were going to watch it. And I say, I shouldn't say watch in quotations, but my husband was blind. And I've said this before, but he couldn't see. But we were going to watch it together on Disney when it came out. It came out in 2020 on Disney. Right before our anniversary was the 4th. I think it came out on the 3rd. So I watched it that summer like 20 times. And I had a friend come over, watch it with me. It was, it was wonderful. I had people just come over to see how I was doing. Not a lot of people, but just those that, were close to me. And so, as sensitive as it is when someone passes away, I want you, so if you are a widow or a widower, here's what I would like you to do. I want you to share with me how you would like people, or would have liked, right? You may be a widow or a widower for a long period of time. You may be just starting your journey, right? And you are staying away from people. Forget about people staying away from you. I did the same thing too. I stayed in the house. It was during COVID. I stayed locked up in my room. I came outside just for food and to go to the bathroom. And I went back into my bedroom. That's where I stayed. In my nice, newly reimagined bedroom that I did over shortly after my husband transitioned. That's what I did. But I would like to hear from my fellow widows and widowers. What would you like, or what would you have liked people to do or not do? And then for those of you that may be watching this video who know someone that became a widow or a widower, they were your friend or someone just close to you, tell me what you did for them. And if that helped or didn't help. Did they check you about something? Did you have a falling out because you said something out of line, or something that was inappropriate or insensitive? Because it happens. It happens. It happened to me. And more often than not, I'm sure it has happened to you. So let's talk about this some more. All right? And until the next time, good night.